So the reason why I want to reach out is specifically I've started working on with CBF and many of our churches out of CBF. I have a blog called The Digital Church. And so a lot of churches have been asking me, hey, how do we do this digital thing in the midst of the coronavirus? And so I'm just going to tell you, I'm learning as we go, but I've been writing about, options like Zoom and, live streaming, all these things to reach congregational members. But first I'd like to reach out to you because this past week I noticed that you used your phone to live stream your service. And so first of all, just to kind of get us going, I would love for you to share your church, who you are, your church, and kind of where y'all stand with everything, how you're meeting, and then how you're dealing with connecting with the congregation.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of shoot from the hip here. First off, this moment can best be described in this quote that I've heard from a few different people in this intense moment of institutional change, that we are building this bridge as we go across it. And we're going into the fog of unknowing. And so we had talked about suspending in church house worship, and that was one of the things that the bishop had recommended doing. First off, it was 100 people or less, then 50 people or less, and now it's like if you have more than 10 people, don't have any kind of public meeting. And so we kind of see the trajectory this is going. But I wanted to use the language with the congregations of we are commuting church worship to be in another form instead of canceling. First off, believing that the church is the gathered body of Christ, to say we're canceling church just can have horrible connotations. So we are commuting our worship to be online. And we actually did meet in both of the small churches that I served this past week in person. Most of the people were absent, had self-quarantined, as I'd asked them to do if they were in that high risk, if they were in one of the high risk categories. But even there, I wanted to do kind of a dry run of one of the things we're going to be doing this coming Sunday. So just brought the cell phone along, did a Facebook Live video stream. We kind of touch a number of different categories of people through the two congregations. I live in Hertford County, which is has been a very depressed county for
Hertford
a number
County,
of Hertford County, North Carolina.
Yeah,
which is northeast.
Real quick, that you serve, and introduce your name.
Yeah, I'm Jason Villegas, and I serve as the pastor of Ahoskie United Methodist Church and Murfreesboro United Methodist Church, both in Hertford County, North Carolina. And Hertford County is less than 40,000 people. It's been very impoverished for the past few decades, losing a lot of jobs, industry. And so we've got a few people a few families who are generationally without work. There's a number of families that have been small business owners, a number of educators, some healthcare professionals. When Chowan University, which is in the Murfreesboro town, is in session, we'll have some college students. We've got some people who are Spanish speakers, mostly migrant workers here on long-term work visas. So from all of those different categories of people, about half of them are tech savvy enough or connected on Facebook to where they could potentially watch the Facebook live worship service, and about the other half are not. So this coming Sunday, what we're trying to do is have an option to either call in and join the worship service through a cell phone, or watching it through Facebook Live. And the hope that as long as I get all the kinks ironed out is we'll get on Zoom, me and the worship leaders. And on Zoom, of course, you can share the video, and then there's an option to go live with Zoom, either on YouTube or Facebook. So then to go live on the Facebook page and then share that. One of the things that I had noticed this past week, just doing the dry run with the Facebook Live at the worship service in Ahoskie, I noticed that there were a lot of people completely unconnected to the ministry in either of these congregations that tuned in, which is, obvious to anybody who's done a Facebook Live video before. So that's a hope moving forward, is that we can make people who are connected to both of the congregations feel still connected through this, but also even connect with new people.
So tell me, how are you doing the call-in? You talked about calling in by phone. Are you using the Zoom call-in number, or explain that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So let me just give you some background on how I came to that. I was talking with a guy named Ernesto Barriguete, who is the director of multicultural ministries for the North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church. And he gave me this great option of using Zoom to connect with an interpreter to interpret the whole worship service. And so we've actually been doing that for a number of months, connecting with someone in Arizona. So we've got the professional Zoom account, and as I've come to realize how this could be connected with Facebook Live, I realized, hey, we can apply this same idea to connecting with people who are shut-ins, who may not have a nice cellular device or internet connection or be very tech savvy. So basically, they'll just call a 10-digit number and then put in a 10-digit ID code, and they can listen to the same thing that's going on.
So I haven't noticed that yet. I haven't gotten that far into Zoom. So basically it's built into the Zoom, I guess, paid account, that it will connect to your Facebook Live, and you can run, like we can see us right now talking on Facebook Live. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's kind of like a screen share of everything that's going on, with sharing it to either YouTube or Facebook Live. And you have to, of course, connect your accounts. And I think you have to do it through the computer version. So the mobile version on a tablet or cell phone, I don't think will do this. And I actually haven't attempted it yet, but a pastor friend of mine who is actually with CBF, a guy named Craig Janey, put a YouTube video up on his Facebook account. He does a lot of work with churches, consulting and stuff. And he was saying, hey, here's this option that you might not know about. So I think if you go to YouTube and just search for Zoom, Facebook Live, you could probably find that. It's like a 2-minute, 15-second video.
Cool. So tell me, in your opinion, here at Boulevard Baptist Church in Anderson, South Carolina, we're looking at a bunch of different options. So for instance, we are doing Facebook Live and YouTube Live with cameras. We've kind of built out a little bit of a system. It's not too complex, but just enough to have 2 cameras and run a live session. But then we're going to do for the first time tonight for our Wednesday night prayer group, a Zoom for both the older adults or the adults, and a Zoom call separately for the youth. What do you think is the difference between wanting to do Zoom, that's more of a private, and then wanting to do a Facebook Live? Do you think both contexts have their purpose, or right now is it more just reaching people?
Particularly for people who are used to face-to-face interactions, and for people like myself who are raging extroverts, and 5 minutes in social isolation feels like your soul's being ripped out. It probably is really helpful to see people that you know well, and to have what feels like a face-to-face interaction. And so I think they both serve their place. in this moment, it seems to me like Facebook Live or YouTube Live can be used for the mass gatherings and also as an evangelistic tool. There's a lot of people who, like myself, who probably struggle with mental health when being in isolation. Anxiety and depression might be a vulnerability. So seeing a massive gathering where a lot of people are commenting, a lot of people are watching the same thing in real time can probably be very helpful. But also for those who are used to the face-to-face interaction, it can be helpful to engage more than one of your senses, to see the emotion on someone else's face, to see a person's reaction to comments that you're making.
When you did the Facebook Live, you used your phone, and something that I love about this is that it's so simple, but so powerful. And the reason why I bring this up is because last year, I was at another United Methodist Church, a guy by the name of Ed McKinney, and he is doing Facebook Live. Same thing, putting his phone on a tripod in the front pew, and then he's walking up and he's talking and just picking up the natural sound going into it. And it's fun because his children are the ones that are managing it, and it's turning out to be a great thing. And then I saw you doing it. You're literally just holding your phone up with your hand doing it. Talk about that first experience and what was that like, and having people in the room but talking with your phone. Share kind of what you thought it was all about and that first experience from your perspective.
So I used one of those little wire-legged spider-looking tripods and attached it to the bottom just so it wouldn't fall off of the pulpit when I first set it up. And the biggest difficulty for myself as somebody who struggles with the neurochemistry that would have me kind of, what's that? The biggest difficulty was to not pay attention to the comments. I saw the comments and little like bubbles popping up, and I'm thinking, is this getting through? Is this not getting through? So with people actually there in person, the challenge was to not pay too much attention to this portal to another congregation online when I had people there face to face. I've been raised by baby boomers who told me the person in front of you is always more important than the person you're talking to. That first being said about a cell phone, but now I'm thinking, how does that apply when there's twice as many people watching on the internet? And so it's just a new frontier for me, a balancing act. And one of the things that I really liked about it that I hadn't really thought about is most of the people that were actually in the congregation on Sunday were a little bit older, probably sat at least 30, 40, 50, maybe even up to 80 feet away from me. And the people who were watching online could see all of my emotions, could see my face moving, could to some extent recognize my hand gestures a bit more. And I actually wore a tie on my shirt, which I usually don't, just thinking, wow, people are really going to be up in my grill on the Sunday. So I didn't shave or anything, but just realizing it has the potential to be a lot more personable.
How did the people in the audience react in the congregation, specifically physically there? Obviously, I assume you set it up by saying, hey, we're going to have this camera here. But kind of did you get any feedback from the individuals in the congregation?
There wasn't a whole lot of feedback. I think to people who may have come to church for their entire lives and who have experienced church worship being a single way for decades on end, to see something change so quickly and then to know this is what worship is going to be like for the foreseeable future, there's still kind of a shell shock, I think. And that's that's me painting with broad strokes. There were a number of people in worship who are more tech savvy than me, who are much better, much more prolific Facebook posters than I am, and so that certainly wouldn't apply to them. But I think as a whole, it's hard to take in all of this at one time. Things are changing this quickly.
We had talked in our previous conversation about what is the real church. You share a dual appointment, so two different churches. So you have to preach in the morning, get in the car, drive, and then preach again. You're doing 2 lives, so you're basically taking your phone, which makes that easy. But this idea of boundaries is getting challenged, physical church versus church in the community. How do you think this extra layer of challenge with this public health situation really helping redefine what the church really is, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned boundaries. First, I'll share that I think the most profound challenge for professional clergy is to draw their own boundaries. So for people who are working from home, there could either on the one extreme be this idea of, well, I don't have any accountability, so I'll just do whatever I feel like doing. The extreme that I am vulnerable to go to is keeping my phone on me all the time and being tempted to look at it during family time, because if I don't have set office hours or set hours where I'm going to be doing church ministry, then potentially it all becomes enmeshed together. I think the opportunity is to reimagine church as something that touches every area of our life. In other congregations, in conflicted areas around the world, this has to become a reality. So if your church gets bombed and you're in a war zone, then church becomes this verb, this thing that you do to reconnect with each other, to be about spiritual vitality. When the in-person institutionalized rituals of doing church become challenged, then we have to reimagine what it means to be church. For church to be something that overflows from the inner lived reality. So for me, that looks like, all right, all of these programmatic things are challenged right now. What are the actual needs of people around me? What does it look like for me to use my energy to connect with those needs? And of course, around me means geographic, but also everyone that I can potentially touch online. So that's a thought experiment.
So as we start talking to more pastors, I'm sure you've had other pastors across United Methodist Church. Heck, your wife is also in the midst of this as well. Talk about some of the things that you're hearing from other pastors and how they're managing these situations and trying to plan ahead and get ready how to be the church to their communities.
So I am connected with about a dozen pastors around Hertford County, and some are slightly outside of Hertford County, both above the Virginia line and just outward into North Carolina. But I texted all of these dozen people as soon as I got the message from Bishop Hope saying, hey, we're going to be taking a step back based on all of what the experts are saying the virus is going to do. And I asked them, and I have kind of based some of my responses on what a lot of them have said. Some of them are more prepared than others. Some of them are more technologically inclined than others. But I think it's important for our response to be rooted in the people that are around us. And it's easy to have our response come from what we hear from our favorite news outlet or what we hear from our favorite leader online. But I think it's really important to be connected with people that are geographically close to us, especially because to me, looking at you on a screen, you could be someone in the next room over, or you could be someone on the other side of the planet. And it's important to remind ourselves, okay, here are the people that live close to me. I need to see how they're doing, if they need anything, if I can do anything for them. And after connecting with them, this really hit home to me earlier today. I was practicing semi-social distancing by helping deliver 300 boxes of food to a car line of 300 senior citizens in Hertford County that are food insecure. And I saw one of the other pastors there from a Southern Baptist church. And as we were staying 6 feet away and carrying boxes, we had this short conversation. But it was just a reminder to me, the things that we're talking about have real ramifications with people that really live nearby to us. And even though we can't see the consequences right now, I believe that investing some of our energy to what is close by will also have profound positive implications down the road when we come out the other side of this and realize, hey, I'm a little bit closer to you than I thought that I was.
One of the things that we're noticing, especially Sarah and I at home, is that some of the elderly or older members of our church just truly value that face-to-face human interaction, not this virtual thing, but talking and being near each other. And so one of them came by, and she's 80 plus years old, and brought cookies to the kids. And I think in her own way, it wasn't nearly just that she wanted to do something for us, but I think she just wanted to see somebody. And so that's hard for us to sit there and say, ma'am, we love you. We want you to come visit, but you really don't need to be out. Being church right now is tough because we're trying to, you want to be communal, but at the same time, you don't want to cause someone to get sick. What are your thoughts there? What have you experienced with that? And how are you encouraging people to stay communal, but at the same time, stay healthy?
Well, let me share a quick story. One of my favorite parishioners, we don't have favorites, but one of the parishioners that is very dear and near to my heart, a man who served down in Texas a short stint as a pastor, 50 years ago, went to school at Oral Roberts and has been in the Methodist Church, Southern Baptist Church, Pentecostal Church, been all over the place. But now he's just sitting in our church, doesn't want to become a member. He's about 90 years old, wears a 3-piece suit every Sunday, and comes to worship. I think he was here when you were filming. And but talking with him, he said, well, I don't cook for myself anymore. I eat out pretty much every meal. And as long as there's a restaurant open, I'm good. And I think for him, that's also the need for social connection. But now the governor of North Carolina put out something saying like, no, we can't have bars and restaurants open right now. You can come and remotely, do like a food pickup from the restaurant. But my thoughts immediately went to this gentleman, and it's really tough talking with him. And he said, I probably won't call in because I have a hard time hearing on the phone. I'm not inclined to be on Facebook. And so thinking about this gentleman, I've made a few phone calls to some of our shut-ins today, and I went by the post office and held my breath and went in and got a couple of books of stamps. And I'm not a letter writer at all, but I'm going to write some letters to some of our shut-ins because I know a lot of them, actually know what chain letters are and what snail mail is. And so hopefully just doing little gestures like that will help people know that they're not forgotten, because definitely, like as you say, everyone is not hit equally by this. Not only are our elderly members of the community more at risk, to becoming fatalities, but also they're more at risk to feeling the depth of isolation because they're not technologically connected as the younger people are.
As a young emerging pastor in the United Methodist Church, and as you look forward, what is your hope for this time period, and as you consider the church in the next few months?
Yeah. So interesting you should ask that. Just yesterday I was talking with some people, and our what is it? Every quadrennium, our 4-year general conference in the United Methodist Church, it has been planned for May. And there's been all kinds of stuff that's been all over the news media about this is finally going to be the year when the UMC has an amicable divorce with itself and creates 2 denominations. And I'm thinking it's definitely probably going to get canceled because we have people from all over the world who are planning to come in. And according to what I've heard, someone today said, well, our sources in the community health center say it's still 44 days until we peak. I'm like, yeah, general conference is definitely getting canceled. So, on the bad side of things, this general conference that was going to sort it out for good, which is what we said at the last one, is going to get put off. But, maybe, just maybe, us who are so keen on scapegoating all of our problems on people who differ from us on, human sexuality or whatever the case may be, maybe, just maybe we can realize, hey, that, this is a bunch, there are bigger, there are lives at stake. People will die from this thing more than necessary if we are not careful and intentional. So let's put our differences aside that we have, dug ourselves in, and let's come together to serve these folks. That is my hope.
That's a good hope. Jason, thanks, man. It's good chatting with you. It's good catching up with you. I always like seeing your face. So
yeah, likewise.
I appreciate it. And on a side note, I'm in the midst of writing this story, so it's going to be super awesome, man.
Thanks, brother.
You're the man, dude. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing it when it comes out.
You're the man. You have a great rest of the day.
All right. Thanks, Bobby. We'll talk with you later.
Bye.